In the past year, 74% of people in the UK have felt so stressed that they're overwhelmed or unable to cope. This is due to factors like long-term medical conditions, debt, comparing yourself to others, or even issues at work. The list of personal crises really can go on. Now imagine times of global crisis, wars, pandemics, economic collapse. No matter how seemingly big or small an issue, stress can exist in our lives at any time. So what are we to do during these times of stress? A few years ago, I realized I lived most of my life stressed. I would feel overwhelmed. I felt like things couldn't improve. Any situation placed before me would feel like a mountain and I couldn't escape. I would have low moods, my sleeping schedule would be disturbed, my relationships were deeply impacted, I had poor physical and mental well-being and health. I was in the depths of my own personal crisis and I needed help. So this is when I reached out to a therapist and I began cognitive behavioral therapy for the first time. Now, during these sessions, I learned quite a lot about myself, and I also was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I also learned different ways of coping with my stress and my anxiety, one of which was to get out in nature. Though nature is not a cure for stress or anxiety, the fact is nature became my safe space. I began going out in nature, whether that was 20 minutes, an hour-long walk. I would visit parks or nature reserves, and I would really immerse myself being in nature. I would take my camera with me and I would document the things I would see, whether that was flowers or trees. I would also record the sounds I would hear, whether that was birds chirping or rain or water flowing. So this is known as mindful walking or walking meditation. This kind of copies the idea of the 5 senses method, where you use your 5 senses to totally immerse yourself in an environment and feel your body. It takes away your anxious thoughts because you're putting your attention towards something else. So an example of that would be with the 5 senses, maybe naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, or 1 thing you can taste. But during my journey to recovery, I went through another crisis. The pandemic hit. What are we supposed to do if we can't access nature? How do we make nature more accessible to everyone during these difficult times? I was really inspired by my archive of photography and field recordings that I took on these nature walks. And I began to develop these soundscapes using my archived images and sound recordings. Now, my soundscapes typically include other ambient noises, and they might range from 10 minutes to an hour long. But what I found is that my environment is deeply impacted by what I can hear and see, etc. From my research, I found that all of us are impacted by our environments. So what are we to do if we can't go outside? Well, we bring nature inside. So whether you're in your living room, on the train, in your car, you can listen to these soundscapes and fully immerse yourself in this audiovisual experience. One theme that I've noticed in my research and developing these soundscapes is my constant use of water. I really like the sounds of water, whether that's oceans or rain or streams. I find it to be very calming. I didn't understand why until I did more research about it. Turns out nature sounds are relaxing because they provide a sense of consistency, a sense of safety. It helps lower our fight or flight response. I also found a study that shows listening to nature sounds as little as 4 minutes a day is the same effect as going out in nature. I also get asked the question, why do I incorporate photography into my music? Well, much like a movie has a soundtrack or an album has album cover art, I wanted to fuse these two audiovisual elements to create something that stimulates more than just one sense. For instance, the way I can help with changing my environment is sometimes my anxiety is pretty bad that I can't leave the house. And so what I do is I change the sonic environment in my living room or in my bedroom, and it helps relax me and take me away from my anxious thoughts. Another thing I found in my research is that viewing photography, nature photography, as little as 5 minutes a day can help with relaxation. I also found a study about patients in hospital rooms who actively looked at the nature photography in their rooms, felt less pain and increased relaxation and a lowered heart rate. So what are we to do if we can't go outside? Well, we bring nature inside. What are we to do during times of stress? Well, we can immerse ourselves in nature. Though it's not a cure, certainly a good way to cope. And I will continue doing my research and making my soundscapes because I believe that nature needs to be accessible to all. So I'm going to leave you with this. How do you find relaxation?